fungus gnats. They're not a lot of fun. Have you ever had those little flies living in the soil of your houseplants, flying around your face while you're doing things, getting into things? They're most likely fungus gnats. But are they harmful? Where do they come from and how do we control them? The answers to those questions I'll be answering in this video. One of the most common indoor houseplant pests are fungus gnats. And I've had fungus gnats in almost all of my plants at one point in time or another, including my avocado trees. But what exactly are fungus gnats? Fungus gnats belong to the fly family. They are true flies, having only 2 wings. The females will lay between 30 and 200 eggs at any one time, and they'll lay it in the top layer of moist soil. In that moist soil, they will hatch, and for the next 2 weeks or so, the larvae will grow before they eventually pupate, and after a period of being pupa, they will turn into the adult form of the fly. The whole life cycle takes between 3 and 4 weeks. Are they a problem though? Well, they can be. The adults, as annoying as they are, aren't especially harmful to your plants. They mostly feed on liquids such as water and nectar, but it's the larvae which you need to be more worried about. The larvae will feast on the ecosystem in your soil. All of the bacteria, the fungus, which is where they get their name from, any mold, decaying leaf matter, etc. And largely, this isn't a problem. It's when they start eating your roots that they can become harmful to houseplants. So in large numbers, they are not good for your roots. The adults themselves aren't especially harmful, but they are really annoying, and they are a nuisance to have around. Because they're attracted to liquid, you'll often find them in your drinks, which is really gross, and they just generally fly around and buzz everywhere, which is not pleasant. I've been working from home recently, I've got plants on my desk, and I'm constantly swatting them away. So they are a problem, and we don't want them in our homes. But how do they even get into our homes to start with? They don't just manifest themselves. Well, it is possible for the adult flies to fly in and enter your home themselves, but what's far more likely is that you have brought them in yourself. Yes, most likely you are responsible for bringing them in, unknowingly of course, often through contaminated plants that we purchase and bring in, or also in potting mix that has got eggs or larvae already living inside of it. It is really challenging to avoid bringing them in, and so at some point, if you're keeping multiple plants, there is a very good chance that you will have to deal with fungus gnats. And it's important to have a strategy or a number of strategies to manage them. Good pest management strategies are multifaceted, or you've got multiple strategies working for you. For me, and the ones that I'm going to talk about in this video, I've got 2 main physical strategies which help to prevent the eggs and larvae as well as the adults. Hey guys, older Scott interrupting here. So the way I generally do my videos is that I make them and then I put them on YouTube. I schedule them about a month in advance. And in the time between making the video and this video coming out, I've done some more learning, and I've actually added a 3rd strategy to my routine for managing fungus gnats, which has made it a lot more effective. And I added this little bit to the video after it was made. So I'll leave it for now. I'm going to talk about that after I talk about my first 2 physical strategies, which I still use. So I'm going to stop interrupting. Here's the original video. You can also employ chemical strategies and biological strategies, but we'll talk about those later. So the main goal of my pest management strategy is to control the laying of eggs and prevent that, and also to capture the adults. If we're able to disrupt the life cycle in different spots, so prevent them laying eggs and also kill off the adults, we're going to eventually be able to control their numbers and eradicate them. So I want to be able to kill the adult gnats, and I want to make the soil inhospitable to them wanting to lay eggs. So let's talk about preventing the laying of eggs and the growing of larvae first. So we want to create an inhospitable environment for our gnats. We want to make our environment not possible for them to lay eggs and for the larvae to grow. And to do that, we need to dry our soil out. Gnats will lay their eggs in the top layer of moist soil. If we dry that soil out, they're not going to be able to lay their eggs. And any eggs that are in there, they're not going to grow. Larvae that is in there is going to die. They need that moisture to survive. So I need to make sure that my soil, the top of it, is not wet. But how do I do that? Well, I bottom water. And the way I bottom water my plants, and if you'd like to see another video on how I water specifically my avocado tree, there's a link on the screen now and in the description below. But I water pretty deeply. And so for my bottom watering, I literally submerge my pots or partially submerge them in a sink of water. As you can see here, I'm using my dirty fish tank water to do this. And you don't have to use dirty fish tank water, but this is just what I use. It's kind of got a homemade fertilizer in it already from the fish poo. It's got lots of nitrogen in it. That's not really important. The point is here that I am watering them from the bottom up, but I'm leaving the water a few centimeters below the top of the soil level in that pot. Remember that the goal is to keep the top few centimeters of your soil as dry as possible. So that's cutting the life cycle at one point. So if we are making it harder for them to lay eggs, that's going to be great. And also any larvae that's in there, it's going to struggle to continue on to pupate and then turn into adult flies. But if we can disrupt the life cycle in multiple places, it's going to be more effective. So I'm going to set some traps to trap the adult flies. So I'm going to set some gnat traps, and it's really, really easy to make gnat traps. All I'm going to use is some milk bottle lids. You could also use jar lids. Really, any shallow or small saucer will do the job. I'm also going to be using some apple cider vinegar. This is a liquid which will attract the flies towards it, but flies are very, very small and they won't break the surface tension, which is why we need our third ingredient, and that is dish soap. Dish soap will cause the top of the water to not have any surface, it'll reduce the surface tension, meaning that when a fly lands in it, it will fall in, it'll get stuck, and there it will stay. Then all that's left to do is to place these around the house on your bottom watered plants to trap the flies. And in no time at all, you will start to see your traps working. Clean them out from time to time. Make sure that they do have apple cider vinegar in them, because if they run out, they're not going to be doing anything. And that's my approach to maintaining fungus gnats. It does take a little while to kick in because you are disrupting that life cycle, and any larvae that's already pupated and there's still a bit of moisture, it's going to grow into flies. So it's going to take a few weeks of this strategy for you to start noticing significant reduction in numbers of gnats. But they will reduce. And now the third strategy, which I have added in more recent times, which has really made my fungus gnat management a lot more effective. So by using these two physical strategies, which I've already talked about, you are certainly going to see a reduction in the number of gnats in your home. But when you start to top water your soil again, you're likely going to see an influx of gnats again. And the reason why is that even though you've dried out your soil, it's harder for the gnats to lay eggs. There are still going to be some eggs in there, and even though it's hard for the larvae to pupate and grow, they can still pause themselves essentially. And even though you've removed the flies, well, once you've watered the soil, once those eggs receive indication that it's moist and that it's able to support a larvae's life, they will then hatch and grow into fungus gnats, which if you're still bottom watering, won't be so much of a problem. If you've still got traps around, you're still going to catch some. But if you're able to kill those eggs, you're going to be winning. And so I am implementing a chemical strategy now. And a little bit later, I'll talk about some other chemical strategies that you can use. But the one that I am employing is a solution of hydrogen peroxide. Now, hydrogen peroxide is a fantastic tool to be using for your plant care, but you need to be careful that you're not using it in too higher concentrations, because at 10% concentration level, it is recommended as a weed killer. So you don't want to be using high concentrated dosages of it, otherwise you're going to kill your plants. But at lower dosages, you're going to be okay. So for this, I'm going to mix a 3% solution in with 1 part hydrogen peroxide and 4 parts water thereabouts. And I'm going to add it to the topsoil of my plants as I water them. Now what this is going to do is this is going to kill the eggs and any larvae that are in there on contact, which should disrupt the life cycle even more than we already have done, killing them. If we've got no adults around, well, they can't lay any more eggs. If we've killed the eggs, well, we don't need any more adults, and so we should, if we are doing these strategies, solve our problem. Now when you water it, you are likely to see a little bit of bubbling in your soil. That is okay. That's actually a chemical reaction. When you use hydrogen peroxide, I actually really like using hydrogen peroxide because it doesn't leave any chemical residue. It breaks down into water and oxygen, which are fine. But remember, don't use a too high concentration or you are going to kill your plants. If you are feeling hesitant, add more water. And back to the original video. But if you are finding that the problem is continuing, you can try to adjust your top layer of soil by something that is super well draining, like literally dressing it with sand. You can also buy commercial sand, which is designed specifically to prevent fungus gnats. You can also look into chemical solutions such as insecticide that you drench your soil with, which will kill things. And you can also look into things that have antibacterial and antifungal properties, which will attack the food source of that larvae. Cinnamon is a naturally occurring one which you can sprinkle on top of your soil, which will prevent that biome growing in the top layer of soil. There are biological solutions as well, which is when you introduce another organism to control the problem. But in my area at least, that can get quite expensive. So beneficial nematodes are one solution, but they're quite pricey, and so I'm avoiding them. And there we have it. That is my approach to managing fungus gnats in my home. Fungus gnats are quite a frustration to beginner and experienced indoor plant people alike. So I hope that you were able to get something out of this video. Even if you don't use my exact strategies, it might give you something to add to your own tool belt to managing these pests. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful. I'd love to know what you thought about it in the comments below and with that like button. If you'd like to see more avocado or other houseplant related content, please do subscribe to Scott Grows an Avocado Tree. Turn the notifications on so you don't miss any future updates. Thank you once again for watching, and I will see you next time.
Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree.